Welcome to BW Business World in another exciting episode of Wednesday Wisdom with BW Education. For today, we'll be discussing how education leaders are evolving and embracing the changes in the education landscape, and we'll be discussing advancing higher education. For today, let me introduce my guest. We have with us Dr. Vikram Singh, who is Chancellor Noida International University. Professor Vikram Singh is Chancellor for Noida International University and retired Director General of Police Uttar Pradesh. He also holds a mention in the Limca Book of Records as most decorated police officer in the year 2014, and many such awards and accolades to his credit makes him a highly respectable professional in police and education circles. Let me introduce our other guest, who is Mr. Raghav Gupta, who is Managing Director, India and APAC Coursera. Raghav leads Coursera in India and Asia Pacific. He's responsible for growing Coursera in Coursera's enterprise business in the region. He has 20 years of experience across consumer internet and management consulting industries. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
For today's conversation, we'll be focusing our discussion on how the leaders in education industry are preparing their students for emerging tech. We'll be discussing online learning for credit and also industry micro-credentials as well. If we can start with Dr. Singh, higher education institutions are today creating blended solutions to elevate the quality of education, modernize curricula, and making learning job relevant. So the synergies between the two. What's your vision for strengthening academic excellence and outcome-based learning at NIU?
Wonderful question. And the last keywords are academic excellence. There are more than 1,200 universities in the country today, both private and government. And there are thousands and thousands of students that are being churned out. I dare say churned out.
Mm-hmm.
But when it's excellence, it takes a little while before you identify a student of excellence. Excellence comes at a premium. Therefore, apart from the fact that we have IIMs, we have IITs, we have reputed institutions like Pilani University of Kolkata, Mumbai, BHU, AMU, but I could almost count them on my fingertips. But yes, we are fast learners. The institutions are growing very fast, but the pressure is so much. And excellence in education comes at a cost and at a price. There have to be smart classrooms. There have to be excellent teachers. There have to be symposium. There have to be guest faculties who are outstanding, not excellent. And when I say, I would recast my words and I will explain and elaborate why I say that every individual who enters the university, either as a faculty or as a guest faculty, rubs off with the students his or her brilliance on the student. The students are very fast learners, and as they say in the uniformed forces, there are no bad soldiers, there are only bad generals. There are no bad students, there are only bad teachers. If, especially in the technical subjects, I have not been able to put my point across, the fault lies with me, not with the student. I would say that every student who comes, look at the fee that I used to pay in my MSc in Prayagraj University, then Allahabad University, was 35 rupees. Today, a child has to pay in lakhs, even for the undergraduate degree. And of course, that comes at a cost. When the parents are making such a huge sacrifice the child is going for, obviously, he or she should only get the best. He should be industry ready. He or she should be internationally the best, so that when he goes to USA, he goes to England, he goes to Poland, he goes to Germany, he should make a mark, and then people would say that here is a man or a woman of steel who has come out from the best university and given an excellent account of himself. But the tremendous hard work behind all this tapasya, we have to understand what is the hard work, what the backstage boys are doing, and what is the inbuilt and the wiring of the mind of the students that has to be addressed, so that you come out with the best and your products are the best.
Good to know, Dr. Singh, when we see leaders such as you who are dedicated towards offering the best and the highest quality of education through their universities, it's good to see. And of course, parents are, of course, sacrificing, and students are there to get the best from universities across. Mr. Gupta, coming to you, you have both views. I mean, views from industry and academia as well, not just in India but globally as well. What do you think, from your experience of meeting industry and university leaders? How do you see India's higher education landscape shaping up? Talk to us on a couple of leading trends in the industry, and what are some of the priorities and focus areas you are getting to know?
Yeah, absolutely happy to share some of my thoughts here as well. And I must say, very inspiring to listen to Dr. Singh and how, he kind of painted his vision of what higher education needs to be. And just as a quick introduction, right, what I'll do is I'll share some of the insights that we are learning on the Coursera platform. Dr. Singh may know this already. Coursera is a very large online education platform.
Yes.
And there are close to 12 crore people globally who come on our platform to learn, of whom about 2 crore are in India. And the world's and the country's leading universities author content on Coursera. So Stanford and Yale and Michigan, but also IIT Bombay and Ahmedabad author content on Coursera. And then hundreds of universities are today consuming this content and making it available for their students. Now, in the context of work with many companies and many universities, what we've all seen as a part of the pandemic is that industry has changed very dramatically, right? Whether it be a technology company, whether it be a traditional bank, whether it be a telecom company. I studied mechanical engineering, and even jobs for mechanical engineers have changed dramatically because computer science, data science has become integral to many, many roles around us. And about a year ago, there was this survey of CEOs in many large companies, and they said, look, 91% of companies said we are becoming more digital. And I'm sure all of us are experiencing this ourselves because we are consuming a lot more digital services as well.
Sure.
Not at all. Not at all.
Dr. Singh, what would you say, how higher education landscape is changing in terms of what students are expecting and what universities have to kind of redo their curricula and also relook at their the fundamentals in order to suffice the demands?
I would say that, yes, you're very right. Things are changing so fast that we literally have to run just to stay still. What worked yesterday will not work today. And indeed, if we do not embrace change, we will be extinct in no time. I would say and reiterate again that what may be relevant, new education policy has interesting possibilities, both for the students, for the faculty, and for the teaching institutions, for higher learning institutions too. There are immense opportunities for students. And comparison should be between comparables. The old school, nothing I don't criticize because I also belong to the old school. But yes, that was rigid, that was structured, and that was cut and dried. BA, MA, BSc, MSc, PhD, and that was the end of it. Limited number of subjects, you name it: psychology, sociology, geography, physics, chemistry, mathematics, botany, zoology. And that was about the end of the whole story in military science. And those who were more adventurous perhaps had a few more subjects like management also, the piling. But today, I think if I were to rattle off the names of the subject that the student can pick and choose from, it is immensely more. It was what you could be a Bhandara. Third is like is more 7-star feast, a buffet, like the immense possibilities, immense number of subjects, immense number of options. Earn while you learn, leave, take work experience, return, complete your degree, begin with mechanical engineering, end up in music, and then go back to solid state physics. There are immense possibilities, and the permutation and combination that a person has to offer and can exercise is amazing. But the main thing that the student and the parents ask for, employability and the guarantee of employment and placement after the child passes out. And that is $1 million question. 99% of the question phrase around the employability that the institution has to offer and what the industry wants, and the dichotomy between what the industry wants and what the educational institution is providing should be this so close. वक्त से पहले उम्मीद से ज़्यादा, more than what the industry expects, and even before the child passes out. Then the educational institution can be justifiably proud. Otherwise, there is no dearth of educational institutions who are running in 4-room apartments and granting degrees which are of no consequence. A small incident, I was getting my car refilled, and the boy looked from the finest family pedigree, very articulate. Okay, son, what are your qualifications? Sir, I'm a BTech. Nothing wrong in being a BTech, but I would not educate my child for 4 years, paying through my nose, so that my boy ends up earning as a petrol pump attendant. Nothing, I again would say, nothing wrong in being a petrol pump attendant. I would not expect my BTech child, my BTech student, to work as a petrol pump attendant, and I have my own reservations about that. I was very disappointed to see that. And I, of course, in my own small way, whatever I could guide and mentor, I did that. And I'm sure the boy would do very well after taking the course that I had recommended to him.
Good to know. So while Raghav, you were away, so Dr. Singh was making a point that when we're looking at the whole dynamics changing in the education sector, there are immense possibilities for stakeholders and institutions to redo and relook at their curricula in terms of what students are actually demanding and need in terms of getting to employability, what he rightly said. Coming to you, Raghav, what would you say? What are some of the trends, prominent ones, and the priorities for both industry and academia?
Yeah, absolutely. And apologies for the disruption. Because we are recording this, hopefully you can edit that out.
That's right.
Now, in the context of what I was starting to say, right, which is we've seen a big shift in industry in general, accelerated during the pandemic. From my experience, there are 4 things that a lot of leaders in academia are very focused on. And I'll lay these out, and would love to get some reactions from Dr. Singh as well. The first is strengthening academic excellence, and this has 2 parts. One is the requirement and the focus on bringing more industry aligned curricula for students. And the second is to build faculty competency in their own domains, but also in being able to teach digitally, because a lot of adoption of online education is continuing. So the first is around strengthening academic excellence. The second is in terms of driving student employability and placements. And here what we've seen is that industry as an educator has become quite important. And I'll share a little bit on this later in the conversation as well. But this whole idea of industry micro-credentials is becoming quite important. And also academic leaders are saying, look, how do I enable exciting placement opportunities for my students? Not just, any job, but how do I enable exciting, fulfilling opportunities for my students? The third area of focus is growing rankings and brand perception. And, like in any service, and education is a very noble service to provide, to be able to build the perception and the brand of the institution with parents, with students, with employers, with the wider ecosystem is important. And whether one likes it or not, rankings continue to be important in higher education, whether these are NIRF and NAC, or whether these are THE and QS and others. So a lot of focus continues to go on that. And the last 4th one is around accelerating student enrollment and growing revenues as well, right? If an institution does good work around academics, around student placements, around rankings, then can that translate into being able to provide education to more students because they want to come and study at your institution? And while higher education is not for profit, but to be successful from a financial standpoint is still very important for any institution. And can revenues grow at 20% plus year on year to be able to deliver high quality education? Those are, I think, what I see a lot of academic leaders focused on in the current times.
Very rightly said. Dr. Singh, coming to you, I'm talking of acceleration on our digital and technology front across the nation in terms of learning and teaching. More universities are now turning to online entry-level industry micro-credentials to prepare students for in-demand digital jobs. Do you think an industry-aligned curriculum is the way forward? As in, it is very necessity to entertain and include technology as a critical part in your strategy and curricula, but what steps are you taking in this direction at NIU?
You said it and you answered the question yourself. If an industry or education is not technologically, and when I say technologically IT aligned, then it is committing harakiri in itself. It is impossible to have any education, much less higher education, which does not incorporate education and IT skills amongst the students and the taught. The pandemic was an unmitigated disaster, but the pandemic also taught us how to survive and how to use technology to leverage ourselves and to enhance the competence and the capabilities within a limited budget. We have the systems that are online, but online is so addicting that those who are requested to come offline are absolutely at their wits' end. We are very comfortable online. And why should they not? The saving of time, the cost, the time management, and the convenience at which you can possibly attend classes, the maneuverability at which the classes can be held, the question and answer sessions. The only thing that was missing in online classes was face-to-face interaction with the teacher and the taught, and the interface, which is so healthy for the classmates to interact, discuss, and debate. But that is all possible. Online classes at the convenience of the teachers and the class, maybe at 5 in the evening, at 7 in the evening, or maybe at 8 in the morning, that is perfectly manageable. And when interaction and question and answer sessions, especially in technical classes, well, there could be seminars and symposium at the weekends. So it has come as a blessing for those who are working both in the corporate and in the government, to come and attend online classes. This has happened. And I would say that even in technical courses like law, LLB, there are those who come and take online classes on Saturdays and Sundays and holidays, yet their attendance is more than 75%, which is mandatory. Attending classes is mandatory. And therefore, it has come as a very welcome step that yes, online classes. But to your question, technological advantage, even if a student is studying agriculture, which is not remotely connected with advanced IT and chip capability, or perhaps machine learning. But today, it is difficult to identify a single subject which does not have to have a technological backup, whether it is online, whether it is Zoom, whether it is StreamYard, it is, this is somebody based even 0.5%. But the child has to be comfortable with machine learning, with robotics, with big data analytics, e-learning, and all the modules of the smart classrooms incorporate IT, software, and hardware. Therefore, if a student or a teacher is not does not have hands-on experience in these, then I think that he's woefully behind times, and he has a long way to go to upgrade himself. Because if he or she upgrades himself or herself, then the class indeed is smart. It is no point in having a smart classroom and dumb users. Both the users have to be smart, those who are the board have to be smart, and those who are sitting also have to be smart. And that presupposes the technological skills in respect of hardware and software compatibility, and also the IT skills which are so necessary in e-learning.
Good to know, Dr. Singh. And of course, you very rightly mentioned, very nicely put, both of the users need to be very smart in terms of adapting to the technology and the learning. Raghav, you spoke about how industry is playing a role as educators, and of course the importance of micro credentials for students. Could you go more deeper into it and tell us how Coursera is enabling for this for universities, and also if you could also highlight what value are you delivering?
Yeah, and before I go there, right, I want to make just a fundamental point as well. And one of the things that we've seen over the last 3 years or so. So many of us, when we went to our own college or university, right, 95% of what we learned came from our teachers on campus, and maybe a little bit came from visiting faculty, right? And visiting faculty could be from another university, maybe from a company or so on. But for today's students, that is no longer a restriction, right? Because today, via a platform like Coursera, I can get faculty from anywhere in the world to teach online, not necessarily live, but asynchronously as well, right? So I may be a student at NIU in Noida, and I may be taking a BTech computer science course. And along with what I'm learning on campus, the top universities in computer science are universities like Princeton and Georgia Tech and Michigan and others. And if there is a course or a subject in which there is an excellent faculty member at Georgia Tech, then NIU could induct that course into curricula and also award credits for that course, right? So a BTech in computer science with specialization in, let's say, cybersecurity could actually have courses from Georgia Tech, Princeton, Michigan as examples. And the good news is that the NEP and regulation supports this, because the regulation says 40% of credits in an on-campus degree can come from online platforms as well. So I think it's important to just make this fundamental distinction about the significant change that we have seen, which is that for today's students, the opportunity to get educated is no longer the physical limitation of faculty within the campus or visiting faculty, but it could be the ability to get the most exciting content, the latest content from the best faculties around the world. And just coming back
I
to your
guess
question.
just to add to this, I believe that students are, I mean, more than happy and welcoming in the nature in terms of when it comes to have learning from across the geographies. Learning today is going borderless, without any restrictions, not even in terms of geography or in terms of institutions. So students have opportunities and opportunities to learn from anywhere and everywhere. Please, Mr.
Yeah, absolutely right. I mean, the reason to attend a class should not be mandatory attendance. The reason to attend a class should be that you get goosebumps because you're really enjoying what you're learning in class, right? So that's what I think is feasible today, and many institutions are doing it. I know we work with about 120 such institutions who are now saying, look, the possibilities are limitless. Just coming back to your specific question on industry micro credentials, and we conducted a very recent survey, and we interviewed about 3,200 students. We interviewed about 1,200 employers, and in India, but also in 10 other countries, so across 11 countries. And what we asked students, right, was, look, along with the degree that you're earning on campus, do you think having an industry micro credential will make you job ready, will also help you getting a job as well, right? And I think 91% of students said, yes, absolutely. I'm studying a BTech computer science. If I were to also take a Google data analyst certificate, it strengthens my profile. I'm studying an MBA with digital marketing specialization. But if I also learn social media marketing from Facebook, then it is excellent because Facebook is the leader in this space, and I can complement my education with, let's say, an industry micro credential from Google, Facebook, and others. So we heard that from the students. Students also said, I would want to go to a university which offers industry micro credentials as a part of the curricula, right? Because I don't want to go to Coursera to take an industry micro credential. I'd rather come to the university to take an industry micro credential. So the university should integrate this into my learning experience. Then we asked the employers that, look, when you look at a student that you want to hire, there's one student who has no degree, but only an industry micro credential. That's one type of student. The second type of student only has a degree and no industry micro credential. And the third is a degree plus industry micro credential. Would you have a preference in terms of who you see is likely to be more successful in your company? And again, very consistently, we are hearing from companies saying a good degree complemented with an industry micro credential relevant to the role that we want to offer to the student is what a lot of companies are looking for. And what we've done very quickly over the last year or so is created what we call a career academy, where today there are 36 industry micro credentials available from Google, from IBM, from Facebook, from PwC, from Tally, and many other such companies. And we're seeing universities adopt this because, like I said, students don't want to come to Coursera to take this, but students want to come to, Noida International University and earn that micro credential from Facebook through the university, and we're seeing a lot of value in being able to do that.
Good to know the numbers and people who are getting roped in and who are actually leveraging the technology in order to learn better and high quality education. Of course, changes to government regulations are paving actually the way for greater integration. Institutions can now offer 40% of credits in any category through appropriate online courses. Dr. Singh, what is your focus on driving learner outcomes using online learning? Dr. Singh, my question is to you.
I would
What
say
is your
everything
focus?
today
Yeah.
is student-centric. And if the students are very comfortable with the online platform, so be it. Yes, could you repeat the question? I thought you were asking me what advantage do the students have in respect of online platform? Is that the question?
Also, on your part, what is your focus area on driving learners' outcomes in terms of mm, keeping it very measurable in terms of outcomes?
Anything that is not measurable is not practical or applicable. Therefore, everything has to be quantified and measured in mathematical numbers. Because anything abstract is very good in philosophy, nothing wrong in that, but it has to be quantified. And when I say it has to be quantified, it had better be quantified and sum up in the performance sheet. Mr. Raghav explained it very beautifully when he said, rankings, though comparisons are odious, but rankings are important. Therefore, gradings are important. Quantification is important. And when you reduce it in numbers, you'll be happy to know that at Noida International University, we have quantified and structured and mathematically reduce it into numbers or alphabetical grading so that both the teacher and the taught realize where each one stands. It is not only that the student is graded, also the teacher is also in the monthly feedback and the monthly administrative report. So by the year end, it figures very, very promptly and appropriately how the teacher can expect any increment or promotion, and the student how he or she would be getting the grades and the remark from the vice chancellor. So everything is quantified. Online classes, the structure, the participation, the social service, the papers written, the tasks and the assignments performed, their quality, their quantity, publications, everything is quantified, numbered and reduced into gradings. And that is reflected in the mark sheets. Therefore, it is not because I don't like somebody's face and I can reduce the grading. It cannot happen that way. It has to be on the black and white, structured and predictable. Therefore, every student and the teacher, every participant in the university dynamics has a role to play, and it's absolutely transparent and measurable.
Good to know, Dr. Singh, that at NIU there is a proper structure to actually measure and quantify everything. Raghav, can you share some insights on how some universities that you are partner with are seeing better outcomes in terms of career readiness and also job placements, more importantly?
Yeah, so one of the things that is exciting, but and we are launching it soon, right, is I spoke a lot about how we work with universities and campuses in thinking about academic excellence and strengthening student employability. We also work with a lot of companies, right? We work with the HR and the talent acquisition arm of companies who are constantly looking at learning and development of employees in these organizations. For many years, companies have said to us, look, why don't you let us hire students via the Coursera platform who are learning on Coursera? Because the interesting thing is that if a student has spent 2 or 3 years learning on Coursera, as an online platform, we are able to capture the skills profile of that student. We are able to capture a learning agility of that student because the amount of analytics that are possible are really, amazing. So we're launching something called Talent Pipeline on the 13th of April. And there are a few companies and campuses who've signed up to be pilot, institutions in this program. Axis Bank has been using Coursera platform for many years, and they said, look, we'd like to hire students from those campuses who we don't go to today. So we go to many IITs, many IIMs, and now increasingly as a bank, we are employing software engineers, we are employing data analysts and so on. And so they've been looking at skill profiles of students learning on Coursera. And 2 weeks ago, they made job offers to 3 students at Graphic Era University in Dehradun. And Axis Bank doesn't go to hire software development engineers from Dehradun. And they like these profiles to be able to offer even a premium to the kind of compensation that they started these students off on. So early days, but being able to connect, students to exciting job opportunities via what we're calling talent pipeline seems to be a great outcome that we are expecting will build up. The other thing which I spoke about, this whole thing about strengthening rankings and brand perception. So like I mentioned earlier, a few hundred institutions have been using the Coursera for Campus platform. Earlier this year, we looked at, what happened to their NIRF rankings between 2021 and 2022. And we found that of the universities who adopted Coursera, 35 of them are ranked in the top 100 of NIRF. And in this 1 year period, 21 of them saw their rankings go up on NIRF. Amongst universities, it went up by 6 positions. Amongst engineering schools, it went up by 8 positions, and so on and so forth. So there seems to be correlation that, if you're driving academic excellence, if you're driving student employability and placement and all of these things, it's impacting your rankings as well. And obviously, there's not a lot that we can contribute to research capabilities, which are very important when it comes to rankings. But there are about 40-50% of parameters that we can complement what a university is doing. And if that eventually translates into higher rankings and my previous example of job outcomes as well, then it becomes a very strong, cycle to say, let's drive academic excellence, let's strengthen student employability, and that can result in job outcomes and also possibly in rankings as well. So those are a couple of examples of what we've seen so far.
In your earlier response, you slightly pointed out how the newer policies and regulations are kind of enabling students to get the online learning. What is your take? I understand. I do have a fair understanding that you're saying that these are the policies and regulations which are enabling and progressive in nature. But still, what is your take on this? But how do you see the regulations in the country at the moment? Also, what's your guidance on online learning for credit with Coursera?
Just going back to my earlier example, right? A BTech in computer science with AI and ML as specialization. What we are seeing regulation allows now is regulation is saying, look to this group as an example. Cybersecurity might be a topic that needs to be taught, or machine learning might be a topic that needs to be taught. And the university may say, I don't have faculty for cybersecurity or machine learning as an example. And today what regulation does is it says, look, you can bring in a cybersecurity course from Duke University. You can bring in a machine learning course from Michigan University. Provide that as the learning, conduct a regular 3-hour exam, and then award credits for that particular course. And regulation now allows this to happen up to 40% of the credits that a student is required to take. So that's the shift since the NEP was announced, and then also with some regulatory clarifications that came out from the UGC in December 2022. That's how regulation is very supportive of a lot of the things that I've spoken about so far.
Dr. Singh, we're now witnessing, when we talk about industry and companies, we're now seeing a surge in the job opportunities in advanced technology sectors. These are the sunrise sectors when it comes to blockchain, AI, and ML. How are you preparing your students for emerging technology, and how is this a part of your programs?
It gives me immense satisfaction to say that we incorporate the best international practices in our curriculum and in our teaching pedagogy. What you mentioned is we also add, apart from those technologies, the drone technology, the artificial intelligence technology. And countries in the world may say that what oil was to Saudi artificial intelligence is to us. We dare say that we incorporate the futuristic technologies, including machine learning, artificial intelligence, and softwares, making the important ones like the facial recognition software, and also doing what nobody has done and being pioneers in certain aspects, especially machine learning, so that when the students go out, they have an edge or say that, yes, we have a micro certification because we pay to ensure that the best international practices are incorporated in our curriculum and the students are made handy. Not bookish learning, not just learning like a parrot, but intelligent learning as it is expected of the students of the 21st century, so that when they go out, they are not only industry ready, they are not only employable, and yes, they scale up, and the only way to go is upward, because they have a very sound foundation of futuristic technologies, but the shelf life of all such knowledge is very short. We give them with the proviso, please upgrade your skills and knowledge every 12 months, because whatever is futuristic today will be museum pieces in just 12 months. Therefore, upgrade your skills every 12 months.
Good to know. When we talk about upgrading our skills and keep relearning and learning new things, be agile to the nature of the dynamics around industries and institutions. Do you also ensure in some way that your faculty is updated with knowledge and especially on tech and digital first front? How do you ensure that at NIU?
It is only a lighted lamp that can ignite another lamp. A dead and a lamp without any light cannot ignite the other. Therefore, faculty development programs, getting the best that are available on a regular basis, not that we do it just for the purpose of showcasing it for the UGC inspection. No, we do it for the sake that it includes sumptuous takeaways from every FDP. We get the best and the iconic teachers to include our FDP, and the FDP performance and participation is an important aspect for career growth of our faculty. Anybody who stopped writing, anybody who has stopped attending FDPs, anybody who stopped, and what Raghav ji had said, every class has to be intellectually stimulating. If I just provide the notes online, and ensure that the child will get good marks. That is just not adequate reason for any international level university today. The child has to be a scholar, and a scholar for a lifeline, and a lifelong learner. If the teacher has been able to promote that, I think the teacher has done wonderfully well. And that is what we promote: an inquiring mind, to be a lifelong learner, and to get the best practices like blotting paper in herself, and then impart that knowledge to the student. That is where the beginning, that is the first stepping stone to higher learning.
Good to know, Dr. Singh. Raghav, it is very evident that academia is trying their best to come to industry, and they look forward to some facilitators in between who can enable and who can make this integration more seamless. I see Coursera doing that for industry as well as for the students across. What is your take on how universities in India should collaborate with platforms like Coursera, and in what capability would you be able to, uh, substitute that?
Yeah, I've covered some of these to an extent already, right? One, of course, is the strengthening academic excellence part, right? How do we bring the best of the world to students in the country and make it seamless for them as a part of what they're doing? The bit that I haven't spoken about is, I think in today's world, increasingly, along with being a great faculty in a physical class, faculty need to be very good at teaching online. A university might say, look, I have multiple campuses and I have one really good professor in topic X. Now, can this professor be on multiple campuses by creating online content? And it's not the same ball game, right? To be really good in teaching in class where you can conduct a 1 hour lecture. But if you create a 1 hour lecture online, then people will go to sleep. So how do you build the capability to create high quality, engaging online content? That's an area that we kind of are also enabling some of the universities that we work with. And then lastly, many universities are saying, look, the model for the future is to say, I might have 10, 15,000 students on campus, but I will also have 25,000, 30,000 students taking online certificates and degrees. And how do I do that? And today, as a platform, there are 40 degrees on Coursera online, and some of these come from IIT Roorkee, IIT Guwahati, and so on. So even the leading institutions in the country are saying, how do we scale access to this high quality education, right? We all know how difficult it is to get into an IIT and IIM, but can that access be increased via a platform like Coursera? So that's the third bit of what we are enabling.
So good to know. Just my final question to Dr. Singh. In your opinion, in your view, how are you looking at the whole education landscape evolving in 2023 and also in next 5 years, with micro credentials coming in, with the increasing focus on online teaching, engagement in online teaching? How do you look at the whole landscape evolving and changing in next 5 years?
I think we are living in the most interesting times as far as higher education is concerned. It is almost like the God's melting pot, where all immense possibilities are there, and the best practices will emerge from this churning. There is thesis and there is antithesis, and from that will emerge synthesis. The possibilities that, yes, of IT online learning, IT enabled services, smart classrooms, digital classrooms, what Coursera is doing, what the wonderful work that Mr. Raghav is doing. Indeed, it is not possible for lesser mortals like me to join IITs and IIMs, but yes, it is possible for every person to have a platform and see for oneself what the flavor is of the IIT and the IIM. The best practices internationally, the best curriculum, the best teachers can be brought together by convergence. And this is exactly the miracle that is higher education today. And this miracle is getting bigger and bigger. It is becoming more accessible. And I feel it's only a matter of time where every village in the country will have access to the very best, the most accessible, and the most physically and mentally challenging.
Raghav, would you like to add to this before we actually close?
I mean, I must say it's so inspiring to listen to what Dr. Singh has been sharing. I don't have additional points to add. I think we've covered them, but really enjoyed listening to you, sir. And I've taken copious notes for myself as well. But thank you for sharing.
Very God bless.
Likewise. I've been also taking notes. Thank you so much, gentlemen, to join in. Thank you so much for your time. It was really insightful. And we know that industry would shape up in a very collaborative
Thank
and
you very much.
integrated manner. And students and teachers would also look like age-old learners all the time and keeping their skills updated with online learning and many more engagement that universities have to offer. Thank you so much for joining in.
Thank you. Thank you very much,
This was the kind of a formal close to this
Raghavji. Thank you
conversation.
very much.
Uh,
God bless. Have a nice.
this was a kind of a formal close to the conversation. It will always be very interesting and good to have a conversation. I really like the Raghav, your point when you say ki, there is a synergy between the demands and the supply as well. When students are willing to learn from the professors who are available across the geographies and across the programs, and Dr. Singh, your point on
Yes.
micro credentials, that additional degrees are actually helping and students are willing for that too.